Right. Okay. Yes, thank you, Lucille. I wasn't watching the time. Yes, well, I'm glad to see everyone back here. We are going to stand up and say the Pledge of Allegiance, and I got a flag for you. So we can all stand or put your hand over your heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States
of
of
America
America,
and to the republic
for which it stands,
and
one
one
nation,
nation
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible, with liberty
liberty
and
and
justice
justice
for
for
all.
all.
Thanks. And before we start, we would like to say our club mission. We meet to provide a supportive and positive learning experience in which members are empowered to develop communication and leadership skills, resulting in greater self-confidence and personal growth. And now I'll turn the attention over to Devin. She's our acting president.
Thank you so much, Megan. Yes, so I am filling in for Mike today. He couldn't be here, but I am your Vice President of Education. And I'm so excited to see everybody here on what is a holiday weekend. So I'm glad you guys could squeeze us in before the merriment starts. And we have a fun meeting planned. Two great speakers will be speaking today. Also just wanted to remind you, today is the very first day of the new Toastmasters term. So congratulations to everybody who got education awards last year. The club met our President's Distinguished Goal another year in a row. So yay, very exciting. Great work, everybody. And now we're on to a new set of goals. So everything resets. And so we just want to keep moving through those pathways. And if anybody has any questions, I am at your disposal. Please, please, please don't hesitate to reach out and ask questions. And with that, I will turn it over to our Toastmaster of the day. Please help me welcome Lucille.
Yay.
Thank you, Devin. As Devin said, it's new year for TI, new TI year. It's new month, and we have a lot of celebrating to do. One of them, of course, is the upcoming 4th of July, which is a national or a federal holiday or Independence Day. And the other one is, of course, as Devin had mentioned, we made it President Distinguished for the last term. And as she said, it resets. So we have a lot of opportunities to make it happen again. And I know that this club can do it because we are now 7 in a row without any break as a President Distinguished Club. So kudos to all of you who are doing your goals and speaking and doing your leadership roles. And I also want to congratulate the new term officers who stepped up in their leadership roles. So thank you very much for doing all of that for our club. Our theme for today is appreciation and celebration. As you can imagine, we have a lot to celebrate and we have a lot to appreciate. The word of today is patriotic. It is a verb and it's very common, so you know the meaning of it. And Rick is our grammarian. So I'm just gonna make sure we have everybody, our functionary here. Anita is our timer. Greg is our general evaluator. He's here. And our speakers are both here. And let's see, Stacy is gonna step in as evaluator 1. And Devin is here. And we need an out counter. I was gonna ask Rick to do both, but since Angelus is here, Rick, if you want to do both, that's fine. Or I can give the out counter to Angelus. What do you guys want to do? Sound off.
Angelus probably wants to do it, right? So I'll do the grammarian. Is that right?
Yes. Angela, are you okay with that?
Yeah, I can do it. I thought I signed up for something anyway, so.
I did not see it on the
Oh,
spreadsheet. So I unless you email me, I go by the
oh,
spreadsheet
I thought I wrote it down on the clipboard. Might be wrong.
on the board. So make sure you go into the spreadsheet on the Google, because sometimes nobody updates that or delayed in updating that. So if it's not there, then I'll go and look over there, and that's what I go by, or at least most people go by that one. So Google Docs, we have it right now, and we have more exciting things to come. At any rate, thank you everybody for being here, and Ma and Angel is here, so we are set to go. We're not going to do your function because we don't have any guests. But before we do that, I would like to call on, if Megan can unmute her microphone. She is our joke master for today, and she's coughing at the moment. And she's gone. Give her a few minutes. Okay, unmute your microphone if you're ready, and otherwise I can move on and do something else. Are you ready?
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay, now, with summer getting sunnier, a woman asks her husband, "Should I go sunbathing in the nude in our backyard?" Husband shrugs and says, "Do as you like." "Well, what do you think the neighbors will say when they see me sunbathing like that?" They'll probably think I married you for the money."
Thank you, Megan. By the way, Rick, you are grammarian, not a counter. And Angelus is a counter. So if you can rename yourself, that would be great. Thank you. Okay. We have two great speakers today, and I am so excited to introduce our first speaker. The title of his speech, The Grand Canyon Adventure. It is 5 to 7 minutes, and it is the path is presentation, mastery, project, connect with storytelling. Alex has recently embarked on a road trip journey and visited a whole lot of beautiful places. One of them was the Grand Canyon National Park. The views were absolutely breathtaking, especially at night. I can't wait to hear. So please help me welcome Alex Sofischenko.
Thank you very much, Madam Toastmaster. Well, it's so great to see everybody on Zoom because, as some of you may know, I have moved. I'm officially now in Texas. Well, how did I get there? Well, I took a car and I packed it with my stuff and I started moving. And I drove and I drove and I drove and I drove. I drove for a couple thousands of miles, and I made a whole bunch of stops on the way. And one of the stops was the Grand Canyon National Park. As many of you know, the Grand Canyon National Park is just north of Route 66, which is a historic route that's located in Arizona and goes all the way up to Tennessee. My first stop before I hit the Grand Canyon was in the small town of Williams, which is just south of the southern rim of the Grand Canyon. It took me 2 days to visit the Grand Canyon, and during those 2 days, I tried to explore as much of it as I could. Let me walk you through my adventure. And in order to help me walk you through my adventure, I would like to share with you guys a map of the park to help it, to make it easier to explain where I went and what I did in the park. So I pulled this map from the National Park Service from the Grand Canyon. To walk you through it a little bit, this is the Route 64, which leads to the southern rim entrance to the park. And then the park splits to the west side and to the east side. As I mentioned before, I spent 2 days in the park. On day one, when I arrived in Williams, it was a late afternoon, so I only had a few hours to visit the park. Surprisingly, going from 100-degree weather in the desert of Arizona, driving from California, to a cool 65-degree weather in Williams was quite a change in temperature drop. I was a little bit surprised and got a little nervous because as the nights began, it began to get colder and more windy. So when I got to the park that day, I asked the park rangers, how cold is it out there? And they said, sir, well, it just so happened that you arrived in the most windy days, one of the windiest days of this year into the park. But tomorrow should be better. And I was like, oh, good. Fortunately, I'm here for 2 days. So on day one, I entered the visitor center, and then fortunately, the gates were still open for the sunset as they let a lot of tourists drive to the west side of the canyon, which is the road I took from the blue bus route all the way to the red and entering the Hermit Trailhead. The Hermit Trailhead offers absolutely amazing views. As you can see on this picture, which I took when I finally got around the sunset time to the Hermit Trailhead, I was able to observe the sunset, eat my snacks, and just rest on a windy evening in Grand Canyon. The temperature turned to about 70 degrees as the sun started to set down. It was absolutely amazing. And the best part, it was quiet. It was so quiet, peaceful, and calm. There were barely any tourists because the tourist season hasn't started just yet when the park gets full, which usually happens in the middle of the summer. So as I spent time enjoying the sunset, eating my snacks, and resting there, I realized that all of a sudden temperature started dropping to about 55 degrees just an hour later after the sunset. And I did not bring any jacket. Well, I said, all right, I guess I have to go back because not only the temperature started dropping, they were also closing the road to the Hermit Trailhead. So there would be, I would be having a much harder time getting out after 8:30 p.m. Note that the sunset usually happens in the national park around 7:30 p.m. So after I got off the park, I came back home, rested, and had to wake up early the following morning. When the following morning I came back to the park, I asked the park ranger again, sir, ma'am, how windy is it in the park? Because yesterday was pretty windy. And they said, well, sir, it's your lucky day because today there is a much less wind in the park. And also the high temperature will be only 76 degrees. Well, when I got to the visitor center parking lot, which is right about in this point, I took a bus to the South Kaibab Trailhead to explore more of the east side of the park. Again, the views were absolutely amazing and the heat was nowhere near around. It was only 68 degrees in the park around 8 a.m., but there were a lot of tourists that day. But the tourists weren't so problematic. The problems were these guys. They call them the mule caravans. And the mule caravans are especially painful if you happen to walk ahead of them and try to pace yourself so that they're always staying behind you. Well, in order to do that, you have to walk much faster, or eventually you get tired and you have to give them the right of way because the mules always have the right of way. As you can see on this picture, this caravan was quite long. I only captured a portion of it as they kept winding down the trail, going down into the canyon. They barely made any frequent stops, so I ended up hauling ahead and leading the mule caravan behind me. A lot of the things that usually the mule caravans transport are the jewelry from the Native Americans or just some stuff that they haul from Utah to Arizona through these canyon trails. A typical mule caravan can reach a distance of up to 15 miles a day, which is absolutely astonishing given how much the heat started picking up on the same day. So I hiked for about 4.5 miles, made my way to one of the rest places. I had to bring also a ton of water because this trailhead did not have any water supply on the route. I also noticed that by the presence of little squirrels and female moose who were constantly thirsty and asking tourists for water. They did not shy the tourists at all. Shortly after that, when I came back from the South Kaibab Trail, going back to my map here, I took a bus route to the Bright Angel Trailhead. And that is when I hiked for about wrong picture, for about 3 miles to the rest house. And this is the map that's showing this trail going all the way to the Colorado River, where people eventually end up camping. I made my way to the 3-mile rest house. There were plenty of water supplies. And I decided at that moment that I have to spend a night here because it was already getting to about 6 p.m. in the evening and the weather was still favorable. And that is when I unpacked my backpack, put my tent around the rest house, and started waiting until it got dark. And that's when it got dark. As the darkness descended and I was in the middle of the canyon, I finally got to see the Milky Way. And that was one of the most beautiful views I ever got to see in my entire life. Fortunately, that night I had my camera around me, so I set up my equipment down and I started taking a lot of pictures. And this was one of them. The Grand Canyon trip was an unforgettable adventure that I will always remember and cherish in my heart for the rest of my life. And I definitely looking forward to coming back and hiking more of the South Rim. But I also would like to experience the North Rim because the trails there are much longer, much steeper, and much more dangerous, which I'm always up for a dangerous hike, although probably should not be doing it alone as I did this one. The South Rim is much safer to hike alone, but also people should be aware of the lack of water on the trails and pay attention to things like wild animals and scorpions along the trail. I hope you all enjoyed this tour of the Grand Canyon that I gave you guys, and I look forward to seeing you guys on the hiking routes. Thank you, and back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Alex. That was incredible. Thank you so much for leading us through your trail. I felt like I've been there with you along the way. So that was marvelous. Thank you so much. Our second, 1 minute to write your evaluation. And Alex, if you could put your email into the chat for those of you who wants to email Alex later for your feedback, or you can write or chat directly to him for your comments and evaluation. Oops. I think everybody's okay. So I know some of you likes to email it and some of you likes to put it on the chat. So we will move on to our second speaker, and the title of her speech, Mind Me Up a Story. And it is a 5 to 7 minutes. And the path is presentation mastery. Please help me welcome Rose Kennedy. Mind Me Up a Story. Rose.
Thank you, Lucille. My daughter, Taya, was 6 years old when she first came to me and said, Mommy, will you mind me up a story? Please, Mommy, mind me up a story. And I looked at her, I said, absolutely, I'd love to mind you up a story. She said, Mommy, will you make it a story about when I was a baby? And I looked at her and said, absolutely, sweetheart. Are you ready? Yes, I'm ready. Once upon a time, in the Black Range Mountains of New Mexico, we were getting ready to go for our daily walk. I put you in your front pack, which was called a baby Borg, and had you facing out. Had you facing out so you could see the mountains and the trees and the sky and the birds. We stepped down onto the path. I was singing to you, probably because I love to sing to you, as we walked along the path towards the mountains. When suddenly, out of the corner of my eye, I could see something. I turned, and there across the path were 6 javelina pigs. Maybe like 2 adults, 2 teenagers, and a baby. And they were just walking along the other side of the path. So I turned back and carried on singing and walking. They were staying in rhythm with us, just walking along the path. Eventually, they continued up the mountain, and I crossed over the path to head down the trail towards the creek. As I was walking down the trail, suddenly I heard drum, 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 drum. I knew it was a pig. I turned around and I placed my arms around you. Luckily, you were asleep at this time. And I put my feet in the earth and I stared at this pig as it's charging towards us, and I said, no. It came to an abrupt screeching halt and stared me in the eyes. And we had a stare down with each other for about 30 seconds. I realized that it was a mother too, making sure that her baby was safe. She looked at me for a little bit longer, turned around, grunted, and trotted off back up the path. I turned around and continued down to the creek, where I pulled out a towel, lay it on the ground, and I unbuckled the front pack, and I put Ty in my arms and placed her onto the towel so she could continue sleeping. I crouched down over her, still with my arms around her, and I was looking around, feeling like a mama bear, protecting her baby. And it was the first time in my life, and the only time, where I felt like an animal. Those animal instincts kicked in, and I felt very powerful. Oh, mommy, weren't you afraid? No, I wasn't afraid, sweetheart, at all. Oh, mommy, you're very brave. I want to be brave like you one day. And I said, oh, honey, I said, you already are brave. I said, it was a brave journey you took, getting from my belly for 13 hours, taking that journey out into the world. You were born brave. We were all born brave. Mommy, will you mind me up another story? And mommy, will you mind me up a story about my first word? Oh, I love that story. Of course, I'll mind you up that story. Joe and I, her father, Taya's father and I, were invited to go to an eco-village and teach in Argentina for 3 months. And you were 8 months old at the time, Taya. And we were teaching, I was teaching Qigong and your dad was teaching natural building. So we got on the plane, long plane ride. We arrived, we took the car all the way out into the middle of nowhere to this eco-village. And we learned straight away that the South Americans pronounce things slightly differently, like the double L's are pronounced as a zh instead of a y. So people were calling it an eco-villa instead of an eco-villa or an eco-village. And I didn't know any Spanish, I only knew French. So I had to start learning Spanish. So we would sit at lunch and people would be sharing their Spanish with me. And the first week I learned por favor and gracias. So I would say, pass the bread, por favor, and gracias. And so this was the first 2 words I learned in Spanish. About 2 months later, on one of our days off, your dad said to me, how about the 3 of us just go to the park and we can just have the day to ourselves. We'll take a picnic and it would be really nice just for the 3 of us to have some time together because we were living in the eco-village in community. So we got on the bus, the rickety old bus, headed into the local village. It was about a half-hour bus ride. And we get out and Taya once again is in the baby Borg, looking out so she could see everything. We're walking through the park, just chatting, Joe and I, when suddenly we hear Eco-Visa. And we look at each other and we look at Taya. And Joe says to me, "Did you just hear what I heard?" Yes, I did. I think our daughter just said Eco-Visa. We were so excited that we ran back to the bus stop, got on the bus, got back to the Eco-Visa, and we couldn't wait to tell everybody about our daughter's first word was Eco-Visa. Well, Taya has heard this story many times from me over the years. About 2 or 3 years ago, she came to me in one of her college breaks. She was going back and forth between her dad and I. And she said, "Mom, I want you to know that every time you told that story about my first word, I never believed you." But she said, "Dad had friends over for dinner the other night, and he shared exactly the same story in exactly the same way. So now I know it was true." And the other thing it made me realize was how smart I am. And I said, "Absolutely." I said, "Just like you were born with your brave, you were also born smart. You were born with intelligence. We all are." And I thought, wouldn't it be wonderful if we could remind ourselves and our loved ones, and especially our children, that they're born with everything they need to be equipped with to live in this world? I think that would create an amazing world that we would live in. Thank you.
Thank you, Rose, for that very inspiring story. Please have a minute to write Rose or email. Rose, could you put your email address on the chat? Either chat her your evaluation or feedback, and also, or email it to her later, whichever you prefer. 1 minute, please. Okay, I don't see anybody's hand typing, so. Anita, may I have a timer's report, please?
Yes. Unfortunately, Alex went about a minute over. I wasn't sure if he could see my background or not. And his speech went 8 minutes and 30 seconds. And Rose was just under by the skin of her teeth, 7 minutes and 28 seconds.
Okay, thank you so much, Anita. So just hold on your voting because we will have it on the poll later. So now it is my pleasure to introduce our general evaluator, Greg, who will introduce the evaluators for our speaker today.
Okay, first off, I'd like to introduce Stacy, who will evaluate Alex.
Hi, everyone. Oh my goodness, the Grand Canyon adventure. I love it. I've been there and I just could, it brought back memories of going there. First of all, I love the joy in your face as you told the story that you were very happy that you went there. And I'm sure that's like the best memory ever. Your story was believable. And I love the way you came up with a prop in the beginning with your little car. Thought that was cute. You painted a great picture using visuals on the computer, and you described the elements as you were traveling through the park. the elements such as wind and temperature, so that we could actually feel what you were experiencing when you were there. You also described the dilemma of not having warmer clothing when the temperature started dropping. I also love the photo of the mule caravan, very descriptive because you had to compete for the trail. And I have never seen that mule caravan. I think that's really an awesome thing that you observed. I love the photo of the night sky. Oh my God, to be down in a hole, I guess that's what I'm imagining, so that all the ambient light that's usually when you live in a city, you can't see the stars as well. What a great experience being able to see the Milky Way. I wish I could do that. You also talked about future hikes on the North Rim. So you projected into the future, and your conclusion was great about, traveling and being able to do that kind of a fun thing. I would possibly recommend that you start with a stronger intro, maybe opening with a question. Have you ever been to the Grand Canyon, or something to that, for a question at the beginning. But that was a great speech, and thank you so much. Back to our sergeant.
Thank you, Stacy.
Evaluator. You're welcome. General evaluator.
Now I would like to introduce Devin, who will evaluate Rose.
Thank you. Rose, wonderful job. It is always a pleasure to hear you speak. You have just a magical way of telling stories that just really pulls everybody in right away. So especially love that you use dialogue when you're telling stories, which a lot of people forget, but it really just adds that extra layer of interest to the story. And it helped with the vocal variety, which is one of the things that you were working with, a way to work that in. And I think you also showed how you can do vocal variety in different ways. I think sometimes we think vocal variety means I have to get loud at some point in my speech, but you showed that no, you don't have to do that. There's different ways to show the variety, but you stuck to your style and you worked it in that way. So that was really well done. The part that I would recommend, and this really is very specific to Zoom, because the other piece of your objective was body expressions and gestures. And I could see you doing them. The problem was they were often out of our frame. And that is a struggle that we all have in this medium. But one recommendation would be to stand so that you can give yourself a little more kind of stage space. So more space for you to do the gestures and that. So I saw that you were doing them, and I'm sure some of them were really interesting, but they were off camera, so we didn't get the full effect. So that would be my only recommendation, just to think about next time you do a Zoom presentation. But other than that, it was wonderful. I really enjoyed the personal aspects, and your daughter sounds adorable. I could see a toddler asking that question, so that was wonderful. So thank you so much.
Okay, I was waiting for Greg to hand it over to me, but I'll jump right in. No, and Anita, may I have a timer's report for our evaluators, please?
Yes, both evaluators qualified, with Stacy at 2 minutes exactly and Devin at 1 minute, 48 seconds.
Thank you, Anita. So hold off to that. We're going to have a polling a bit later. And now we are into our table topics. And I think our table topics master should be ready in a few minutes and get her stabilized. Okay, so help me welcome our table topics master, Angel.
Thank you so much, Madam Toastmaster. Please give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. My internet's failing. If it stops, we'll just have to keep trying. I'm happy to be your table topics master today. And because we don't have guests, a reminder, Your table topic should be ideally like a little speech, to have an introduction, a main point, and a conclusion. Your word of the day is patriotism, which you should use at least once. And of course, you can use any version of the word of the day. So I'm going to ask questions and I can't see any of you. Let me see if I can at least see 3 of you. I'm not going to know who has a job because it's too small to read. So if you don't have a job, do me a favor and wave right now. I'm looking through. I see there's Angeles. I'll ask you the first question. Angeles, are you a patriot? What are you a patriot of? What does that mean? Please tell us.
Thank you, Angel. When I think of patriotism, I think of my husband because he served in the U.S. Marine Corps and he is now serving in, I can't think of the other branch, Army. And when I think of patriotism, I think of him and I think about how he's always like, America, you know, and guns and all these things. And whenever someone wears their uniform they're not supposed to be wearing out in public, or someone, he always gets really fuzzy about those things and gets I wouldn't say offended, but certain type of way. And I do not think I'm that much of a patriot like him. I'd like to think I'm a little bit more liberal with certain things. I did grow up here in the United States of America, and I'd like to believe that I am a patriot and American, just because I don't know anything about my own country in order to be a patriot of that country. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Angeles. Now, when I studied sociology, they told us that patriotism is the strongest drive or urge that human beings have because they're willing to die for it. Now, I should clarify that animals have instincts. People don't have instincts. They're not born with a set of rules. They learn everything that they do and believe. So we learn, and our drives push us in different directions. We don't do everything the same way everywhere around the world because we have differences. But it's fascinating to me that he thought patriotism was the most powerful of any drive. Who can I ask? May I ask you, Anita, what do you think about that? Are you muted? You might have to unmute, darling.
You need to unmute, Anita.
Thank you, Angel. I'm sorry, I'm overwhelmed with being timer. So I was trying to get my colors straight while you were asking the question. If you want to repeat the question, I'll answer.
I was wondering what you thought about, is patriotism a very powerful drive? Or more simply, would you die for your country?
Thank you for that question. I believe patriotism is one of the most powerful drives that there is, aside because it is a side of love, which actually is the most powerful emotion and concept that there is. People that are patriots for a country love the country beyond anything else aside from possibly God and their family. And it can be a very, very serious thing. I don't know if being patriotic, though, means only, relates only to countries. Can you be patriotic to other things also besides a country? I don't know. But anyway, I think I'm going to research that and find out. Can you be a patriot towards football? There's the team called Patriots, or towards something else. I don't know. Thank you.
That's a very good question. Thank you, Anita. That's a brilliant question, in fact, because in place of young men going to war, what they tend to do in society is join in teams and get mad and go out and be en masse and support teams and sports. So that is kind of a halfway step, you might say. I'm not sure who to ask the next question. I think perhaps Megan, I'd better ask you. Normally, I always put the question first and then ask. Because I'm searching to see you guys, I just have to do it this way. Megan, everybody has a story. Some don't know about how their family first came to America back in the day and ancestors. But if you do know anything about before your family ended up in Georgia, would you please tell us about that?
Unmute yourself, Megan.
Thank you, Lucille. Sorry. Okay, I think my family, it really through my family is we just started in Georgia, and it really goes through my dad. My dad is the oldest of 9 children, and so they have been all over Chicago, Pennsylvania, and I just remember my dad telling me about how much he cannot stand it being cold. So he, as soon as he moved from Chicago, it was like, I've got to live somewhere where it's warm. I cannot stand it. And so they moved to Georgia. He is he was in the military with, not with, but like his father. And so they all, they were very patriotic, and well, with his father being this major golf guy, I don't know how you can be patriotic towards golf, but and they are just very patriotic. I am sorry, Angel, I'm just from Georgia.
That's fine. I love that you're from Georgia. Thank you very, very much. I would like to ask Rick the same question, along with, when you celebrate the 4th of July, what are you celebrating? And where did your family first harken back from?
My mother, her heritage was Danish, and my father is Scottish, but I'm like the 3rd generation here in California. So I've seen a lot about how California has changed. And I have kind of a broken family. It's not like, you hear some of these things like I'm Thurston Howell III, if you remember, that's from the old TV show Gilligan's Island, right? Where there's all this kind of I come from this great lineage of whatever. I don't really have that. I'm 3rd generation, but I come from kind of like a dysfunctional family, alcoholism and things like that. So, but I've kind of put the stops on it in my own life. So that helps me to feel good about improving those things, becoming a better person. I guess we're all trying to do that. So I feel patriotic. I love America. I think it's wonderful. I think we're going through some struggles right now, but there is a lot of great information about, you're seeing now a big struggle in the political world. And, but there is a lot of really good information. We're becoming connected in our network society where we're learning from different voices from even all around the world. And I think that's quite interesting. I know that I'm learning a lot. So I'm thankful for those things. I'm patriotic about America. I think we're a beautiful country. And I think that we're struggling right now. But, hey, I've struggled. The country can struggle. We'll overcome. So that's the way I feel.
Thank you, Rick, for that. I love America too. I hope I've got time for another question, because I'd like to ask Lucille, how have you most memorably celebrated the 4th of July?
Thank you for that question, Angel. So for me, being patriotic is, of course, for the country. I'm very patriotic to the American. I love our country, but I also think of it as loyalty, faithfulness, and I'm faithful to my home club. Yay. I'm very loyal to my home club. I'm loyal to Toastmaster. I'm faithful to my home club and the Toastmaster. I am loyal to my country. So I'm very patriotic. And as far as celebrating the 4th of July, I do like Independence Day. And as you know, it was this celebration in 1776 on July 2nd, it was declared. But as far as celebrating it, I could go either way. I could go celebrate it with the rest of the people in the over the beach, over the bonfires, things like that. Or I can just have a quiet one at home with Rick and celebrating it and appreciate the beauty that we have and the freedom that we have. And as we are still struggling, but we are a strong and resilient nation, and we will persevere and we will be fine. Thank you for that question.
Thank you so much. And I would like to put a reminder out to everybody to remind the people they know to keep their pets inside, keep doors and windows shut, and if possible, put your cats in a closet, because they are going to freak out when they hear those fireworks going off. We have a big celebration Sunday here, and I will be busy dealing with Mr. Snooky on my lap, freaking out. So that will be how I will be celebrating. Thank you all for answering the questions today. I'm going to pass it back to Lucille as our Toastmaster now.
Thank you very much, Angel, for a wonderful question. Thank you, everyone, for participating. Now, may I have Anita's, our timers report for the speakers, please?
Thank you, Lucille. Everybody qualified.
Thank you for that. Yay. Now, while our Devin is doing the polling, I'd like to get, first, before we do that, I'd like to get from Rick, who used the word of the day?
Everyone used the word of the day from what I heard.
Okay, very good. So she's going to prepare the poll and it's going to come up while Devin is doing that. May I have an counter report, please, from Angela's?
There's one. Megan, I heard a couple. Alex, I didn't really hear much except like one when you were like thinking about something. Same with Rose. I heard like nah. And Angel, I was so into the little table topics. I only heard 2 so I kind of forgot about that.
Jackie. Very hard trying to see my questions and not drop my phone. I apologize.
Okay, I see that you muted. So I guess that was the end of your report. Okay, there's the ballot. And then I would like to call on our general evaluator, Greg. Please tell us what you think of the meeting.
Woohoo! There we go. I thought it was a terrific meeting. I really liked everything about it. I was a little slow on the trigger there, time or two, but that's the way it goes. I thought that the table topics were just terrific and great answers too. Some of those questions were really kind of hard to think about what you would say, and they were all answered really, really quite well. And the 2 evaluators did a great job. They both described all the really good things in both of those terrific speeches, and also thought of some things, little things, but things that could make it better. Terrific meeting.
Thank you, Greg. Now I would like to have, okay, she sends it to me. Okay. I'd like to announce our winners for today.
Can I
So-
get to do the grammarians?
Oh, I'm
report?
sorry. Yes, please.
I've been-
Oh my gosh. I'm so sorry.
I've been chomping at the bit on this one because this was really a lot of fun as a grammarian to listen to, because I really enjoyed both speeches. I thought they were great. And Alex, you're a really good storyteller. You really made me feel like I was there, camping with you. You just kind of have this way of keeping it, kind of simple but understandable, and you could appreciate it. The one thing that I was wanting you to do, and that I think if you build it into your your speeches, it will really add a lot, which is exactly what Rose is just so overwhelmingly good at. I mean, I was actually keeping note of these, as a grammarian, you try and track these interesting phrases, and they just flow out of Rose. I don't know if you can actually, get the recording of her speech, but I mean, she just constantly is laying out these statements, like put my feet into the earth and stare. I crouched down over her. I mean, they don't have to be these poetic things, but just there's something about her ability to put a few words together paints a really interesting picture. And that is something that if you just infused a little bit of that with your beautiful style of storytelling, it would really amp up your speech, which I think is really good to begin with. I'm just saying as something you could, put in there with your speech giving ability. But as a grammarian, I'd have to say that Rose won that one hands down. So beautiful.
Okay,
that's
thanks.
it.
Is that it? You
What
got
about
okay.
table topics?
So hand it over so I know that you're done. Okay, thank you for that. Thank you for that, Rick. Let's see. Thank you for that, Rick. That's wonderful to hear. And yes, this is recorded, but I don't know where we're putting that right now. At any rate, maybe we could put it in our, Devin is the one that has it. So if you want a recording of that, she can send that link to you. So now it is my pleasure to announce the best speaker is Rose. The best evaluator is Devin. And my goodness, I won the table topics. Thank you, guys.
Good job.
Appreciate that. I don't often do well in table topics. So now my part of the meeting is over, and I thank you so much for being here today. I wish you all a wonderful celebration, appreciation, whatever it is that you like to do for the 4th of July weekend, which is actually pretty long. And I want to turn over the meeting to our presiding officer, Devin.
Thanks, Lucille. Excellent job as always. Just a reminder, we do have a YouTube channel that these meetings get posted on. So you can see any of our past Zoom meeting speeches that way. It's always good to just have some reference and a way to also, if people are curious about our club, we direct them to there as well.
Devin, do we have them also on Facebook? I think Angelise has been putting a lot of them onto Facebook on our group too. Is that right?
The in-person meetings, I believe, were live streamed to our Facebook. Yes. So that's the difference.
So the difference is
the
one is
Zoom
from
ones are
Zoom.
on the YouTube channel, and the in-person ones you can usually find on Facebook.
Cool.
And what's the name of the YouTube channel?
Expressions Unlimited Toastmasters, I think, is the full thing. I'll find it. I'll find it and send everybody a link. So let's do a quick look at the schedule for next week. I think we have quite a few openings. If we could get some of those filled now, that would be great. Can you see the schedule?
Yes.
Yes, okay. All right, we need Toastmaster and Table Topics Master and most of the functionaries. So who will be here next week? You could Any takers?
Put me somewhere. I can do something, just put me there.
Well, do you want to take one of the big ones? Toastmaster table topics?
I like
Do
table
the
topics.
table topics.
I'll do table topics.
Yay.
Okay, thank you. This is an in-person meeting. You already have speakers, so that makes Toastmaster easier.
I'll take.
Come on, Rose.
What do you want,
Are you
Lucy?
gonna be there, Rose? I vote Rose for Toastmaster.
I'm evaluating.
She's the evaluator.
Oh, okay. Who can we pick on then?
I'll be grammarian.
Okay.
Megan, do you want to be Toastmaster and I will help you? We can be a duo, but you'll be the main one. You haven't done that for a while. I'll be happy to help you with it. It's up to you, no pressure. Just an offer.
All right. Thank you so much, Lucille. And are you sure no one else wants to do it?
Say yes. Say yes. Say yes. Say yes.
Remember some long time ago you did that and Rick was helping you, but you're the lead one and he was just on the side. Remember that? That was some time
Yeah.
ago. You did a wonderful job.
All right. Okay, but everyone, y'all come and
It'll be fine.
Just bring
Yeah.
your beautiful sense of humor, babe.
Yeah.
okay. All right, Lucille helps.
Yes, I will help you. Rick can help
Okay.
you too if he's there.
All right, thank you.
I can be GE.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll follow up with some other people. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. We will be back in person next week at Heritage Hall, and have a wonderful long weekend, everybody.
Thank you, Devin.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you,
Bye,
Devin.
everybody.